Hey there, my name is Brent Smith. Welcome to the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Video Podcast. I'm indoors again. Don't want to discuss it. I'm just indoors again. Wish I was outside, I'm inside, whatever. At any rate, I am going to be discussing a couple of topics today. I'm going to be doing a David Dorn, the police officer, retired police officer in St. Louis that was murdered during one of the protests, the riots. And I'm also going to be doing a untold story of the Trail of Tears. We'll leave it at that. That's what I'll be discussing today on the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Video Podcast. I'll be right back. Alrighty then. So this is from KMOV in St. Louis. First off, I want to show you something real quick. These gentlemen are not, they're not candidates for the mayor of Chicago. No, they're not. They're bags o' dirt. The first one here, this dude, is Stephan, what the crap's his name? Stephan Cannon. I'm sure it's S-T-E-P-H-A-N, okay? I'm sure it's Stephan, like Stephen Curry, that type of deal, because it's really Trey Elegant or something. But he's not Trey Elegant. He's a dirtbag. He's the guy who was arrested for first-degree murder of the death of the former officer David Dorn, who was protecting a friend's pawn shop in St. Louis. Remember the retired cop, the hero cop from a 77-year-old guy that was on the force for eons, okay? And trust me, you can't be a cop for that long without being a hero at least once, okay? Some of these guys, considering today's times, they should be nominated for sainthood, honestly. But now there's another update. There's a second man that's been arrested. This gentleman. And no, once again, he's not a candidate for alderman or mayor of Chicago. No, his name is Mark Jackson, 22 years old, and he's been arrested and being held without bail, just like his friend Stephan Cannon. The other three guys are just minor players for burglary, robbery, all sorts of assaults and everything that were involved in the pawn shop thievery, thuggery, whatever. But those two individuals, thankfully, are being held without bail, and which is great. One was first-degree murder, the other second-degree murder. The other fine gentleman is for second-degree murder. So that's what's gone down so far. So it looks as if Officer Dorn's family may actually get some real justice. It's a miracle. Okay, so officials with the St. Louis, this is from KMOV in St. Louis again. Officials with the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office said Mark Jackson, 22, was charged Thursday with second-degree murder for the death of Dorn. The shooting happened at Lee's Pawn Shop and Jewelry on June the 2nd after a night of of frivolity. It was just like a block party, like Chaz. What was it? The Summer of Love or something. Oh, jeez. After a night of looting and violent rioting in Old St. Louis. Meet me in St. Louis, and if you do, I'll shoot you dead. Okay, so there you go. And, of course, Officer Dorn was found bleeding on the sidewalk. He bled out, fatally shot multiple times, and they just stepped over his body in order to get flat-screen TVs. I'll tell you about Stephan Cannon's plight. His plight. He was a victim here, I'll tell you. Okay, he's the one who shot the guy dead and stole the flat-screen TV. All right? So charges were also filed against the other three guys for some minor incidents, burglary, robbery, stealing stuff, and whatever. Now, these guys weren't the brightest criminals. Apparently, they went there and got away in a Pontiac G6, which is a cheesy knockoff of an old style muscle car, I guess, from a company that isn't even in existence. Pontiac doesn't exist anymore, nor does Oldsmobile. Okay, so, but the interesting thing is that Mr. Jackson, I guess it was Mr. Jackson's car. Mr. Jackson, the genius who was arrested for second-degree murder and a bunch of other stuff, left he left his debit card and fingerprints all over the pawn shop. It left his debit card in the pawn shop, okay, after he stole a bunch of stuff. I guess, I don't know whether they used the getaway card, the Pontiac car, or just left it there and ran away with the stuff. Because you can't fit a huge flat screen TV in a Pontiac G6. It's just too small unless it's sticking out the trunk. A little obvious, but I digress. The police finally found the car. I don't know, what it was. Whether they had to search for it, it was just sitting outside the pawn shop. I have no idea. But Mr. Jackson's registration was in it. All his ID, everything was in it. It wasn't a huge stretch of police detective work to find this guy, or the other people for that matter. It's the most absurd thing. So these crooks aren't the smartest guys in the world. And what's going to happen is that they're going to get jail time, and they're going to go into jail. And according to people that I've spoken to that have been in prisons, and I've seen interviews that of prison inmates, federal prison, state prison, and whatnot, they join these cliques of all, I hate to say it, all the child abusers are in one clique, and the rapists, and then the murderers and everything, and the bank robbers and the other burglars. And no one gets reformed. Basically what they do is they go in and they get into these groups, and they're like book clubs, all right? Except for they figure out what they did wrong, and then they come out as better criminals the next time, okay? So the recidivism rate is great, but they're not quite as dumb as when they went in there, okay? They're still pretty stupid, because otherwise they'd get a real job and they'd stop going in and out of prison. But again, I digress. So anyway, that's how they ID'd these guys. It wasn't difficult. Now, is Black Lives Matter mourning David Dorn? No. He's a black man. He was a policeman. He was a stand-up individual. He was a hero, by all accounts. He was one of these guys where, I know some people that you can't help but like them. Everybody likes them. Everybody loves them, okay? Evidently, this guy, David Dorn, was one of those people. He was a father, grandfather, great husband, from what I understand. Just an all-around good guy. Worked on the police force forever, and he was just a wonderful individual. And one of his friends, I guess, who owned a pawn shop or something like that, needed some help protecting it. He was raced down there, was willing to help, and got killed for his efforts. What are you going to do? It's just one of those things where just dirtbags, they have no value of life, that a flat screen TV is more valuable than a person's life. Get out and get yourself a job, you pieces of crap. Okay, and earn the money and buy yourself a TV, you pieces of S. You know what I mean. But the problem is Stephen Curry's plight. Let me explain to you. This is why he had to, I assume. This is why and I don't mean to make light of this situation, but it looks like justice, if you can call it that, is finally going to be served to a certain extent, I guess. I don't know. Curry, he steals his he shoots the guy dead, steals the flat screen TV, takes it home. Why did he need a flat screen TV? Evidently, he stole an Xbox back in like February or something like that. I guess he got it home. He went to hook it up and he said, I ain't got no TV. I need a TV. So I guess I'll plan a robbery. So they waited for the crisis. Crisis came. Looting occurred. Shots fired. Innocent hero killed, gets his flat screen TV. Now he's got the flat screen TV in the Xbox. Maybe they'll let him have it in prison. Wouldn't doubt it the way things are in prison. So that's the update. We don't often get updates, particularly we don't get updates, excuse me, out of the frame a little bit. Particularly we don't get updates for heroes, for real people. We only get updates on, whites are still evil updates and things like that. Whites are still oppressors. Newsflash, whites are still oppressing blacks and the red man too now apparently. But we don't often get updates, but this is a decent update. And when we do get updates, it's usually not good news. But this one is a good update. I'm glad to see that the family is going to get some justice, and if there was any justice at all, these two would just be marched. You know what? I'll just let it. I hope they get the death penalty. That's all I'm saying. What kind of death penalty? I'll leave that to the state or to the feds or whoever's taking this case. But in any event, that's that. And I'll be right back for the Trail of Tears. Yay.
You're watching the Common Constitutionalist video podcast.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
All right, I am back in the USSA, United Soviet States of America, United Former States of America. I don't even know what to classify us anymore. The riotous states of America, something like that. They'll burn down your buildings. They'll topple Did you hear, as an aside, once again, some cancel culture mob, a bunch of thugs, went on, I guess it was Catholic property somewhere. I don't even know where it was. I just heard about it yesterday. They beheaded and toppled a statue of Jesus Christ. Are you blanking kidding me? This is what we've come to now. Who's next? Is it Martin Luther King? I mean, once you get to Jesus, pretty much that's it. You're done. Okay, you're officially from hell. Okay, you're officially spawned from the seventh, well, in my religion, it's the third depth of hell. Okay, there's nothing worse that you can do representatively than to decapitate and topple a statue of Jesus Christ. I mean, Jesus Christ, what's next? You pieces of crap, you loser, evils, SOBs. I can't even stand it. So our American history, good, bad, or indifferent, is being erased all over the place. And basically, there's going to be nothing left of it soon, from its founding all the way up to present day. Particularly as far as white culture goes, there's going to be nothing left. They're trying to, and American culture left, there's going to be nothing left. All right, they're just trying to rewrite it. This Black Lives Matter movement, as has been told by me and every other conservative that I know, is not a race movement. It is a Marxist, communist movement. Let's get that straight right now. But I want to talk about the Trail of Tears, but I don't want to talk about the evil white man, Andrew Jackson, who I dislike with a white-hot passion. I was not an Andrew Jackson fan ever, and I'm no better now, okay? Crap, whatever. I'm not going to get into Andrew Jackson. I'm also not going to talk about evil black slave owners, of which there were many, and they owned many, many, many African slaves. So I'm not going to talk about the evils of black slave ownership either. What I am going to do is I'm going to talk about the evils of American Indian slave ownership. Yes, the American Indians also owned lots and lots and lots of African slaves. Yep, they sure did. Look it up. The Trail of Tears. We all know that the Trail of Tears was Andrew Jackson's baby, and the American settlers, for want of a better term, farmers and plantation owners and whatnot, wanted to take over the Indian land, so they drove off. Basically, Jackson drove them all west, and they all ended up in ironically, Oklahoma, which is, if you know about the Neil Gorsuch recent Supreme Court decision, I'm just gonna call it the Gorsuch decision because that guy's such a traitor to the Constitution. It's not even funny. Plus, not to mention, there's no common sense in it. Basically, the decision was that they decided that half of Oklahoma, this is just in context here, or just a snippet of it. Half of Oklahoma is actually an Indian reservation. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to chop Oklahoma in half and give it back to the American Indians? I have no idea. I don't know what the outcome of this thing's going to be, but it's going to be litigated until the sun goes. I don't know. I'm not sure what happens now. At any rate, the interesting thing is that the Trail of Tears, the Indians were actually allowed to take their African slaves with them on the Trail of Tears. Okay, first off, most people don't even know that the Indians owned slaves. Let's see, the tribes of the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole Indians all owned slaves, and they're the ones that were driven west, and they're the ones that the white trash took their land, the plantation owners. Although there were Indian plantation owners and there were black plantation owners. So they weren't all bad white guys, okay, that owned the slaves and owned plantations and dealt in the slave trade and all sorts of things. There were some famous Indians that dealt in the slave trade. But it gets worse, actually. When they arrived at their location, those who survived the Trail of Tears, when they arrived at their location in Oklahoma, in the new Indian territory that was selected by the Jackson administration or whatever, lo and behold, there were a bunch of people waiting for them to work for them. Who were they? They were black African slaves that were put in boats and whatnot and transported to the new Indian territory, waiting for their masters to get there, so they could be commanded to build the Indian territory the way they wanted to build it. So everybody's talking about the 1619 project, how capitalism, how America was built on the back of slaves. Well, the Indian territories in the West was also built on the back of slaves, and it's an irrefutable fact. Look it up, okay? And that's the way it was. But the Indian tribes, they weren't just slave owners. They were enthusiastic slave owners, and they were enthusiastically in favor of slavery. Don't believe me, you can believe this. Quote from Paul Chat Smith. He was a Comanche, or he is a Comanche, and he's curator of the National Museum of the American Indian. Indian tribes, quote, were deeply committed to slavery, established their own racialized black codes, immediately reestablished slavery when they arrived in Indian territory, rebuilt their nation with slave labor, okay, crushed slave rebellions, and enthusiastically sided with the Confederacy in the Civil War, quote unquote, again said Paul Chat Smith, a Comanche, a curator of the National Museum of the American Indian. So that was the Trail of Tears. Yes, did the white man, did he do bad? Yeah, but he wasn't the only guy. Was the white man responsible for all slavery? No, he was not. There were many Indians that owned slaves. There were many blacks that owned slaves. That doesn't make it right. But in any event, it wasn't just the white man. Indians owned slaves, and a lot of them, and they rebuilt their Indian territory once they got out there with slave labor. So you can't blame everything on the white man and evil capitalism, you dope 1619 project. That's all I got. My name is Brent Smith. I am the Common Constitutionalist. Please hit the like button if you like this. If you don't, I don't know. Is there an unlike button? A hate button, whatever? Leave a comment if you have anything further to add to this or detract from it. And hit the subscribe. And, just do what you do. Oh, and there's the subscription bell thingy, whatever. I guess I gotta get a little bit better marketing the Common Constitutionalist. Whatever. See ya. Bye.